webinar regarding coding, programming, and the future of work with BTE and Codestop.io. My name is Ernie Delgado. I'm the CEO of Beyond Technology Education, and I have two distinguished guests with me, two people expert in their individual fields that are coming together to develop a really powerful program. First, we have Lynn Vazquez, who is our educational director, operations director, and manages everything education for Beyond Technology, and Sebastian Taylor Basilio, or is it Sebastian Basilio? It's some version of that, who's the CEO of Codestop.io and a couple other programs. What I think I want to do is start by introducing Lynn and let her talk a little bit about herself, and then we'll go to Sebastian.
All right. Well, hello. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Lynn Vazquez, and about 35 years ago, I'm going to age myself a little bit. I was introduced to a personal computer for the first time. I actually sold my car to buy this computer because I knew it was going to help me significantly. I was in college and I struggled with a couple learning issues. And at that time, people didn't really have IEPs and talk about things. All I knew was that this computer helped me with my dyslexicness tendencies, and it had spell check on it. It was a game changer for me. And I spent my Christmas break, my parents were dying at the fact that I was selling my car to buy this computer, but I was determined. I was determined to do well in college, and I was having a lot of fun on this computer. It was one of the first versions of the Apple Macintoshes. And it was fantastic. And ever since then, I realized that I was a person with a little bit of privilege. I had a car that I could sell. And there's a lot of students out there that don't. And over the years, I've run into more and more students, and especially recently, it became apparent during COVID that our kids didn't have access to things like internet, let alone computers, and the ability to use those computers. So even if they got computers, they didn't have the ability to use it. So my passion over the years, the reason that I went to school and got my master's in education and teaching and learning with technology is because I really want every student to be able to have quality access, quality curriculum, not just hardware and software, but also the ability to be able to learn it, to equip teachers and students and how to use the technology that we have in this world, because it continues to grow and continues to change, and we need our kids learning it. So that's a little bit about me and who I am.
Real good. And Lynn's building a world-class team over here at Beyond Technology of computer teachers, instructional designers, professional development experts. And so with her leadership, there's some really great things happening. And so Lynn, thank you for that introduction. I want to bring up next our buddy from Codestop, Sebastian, who I've known for several years, and I know he has a lot of background in ed tech. And when we started thinking about this new service that we wanted to create, with a programming curriculum that we wanted to create, Sebastian was the first person we thought of. So, Sebastian, why don't you give us a little background about yourself and whatever you think is relevant to the conversation?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So Codestop is a product that's intended to help students learn vocational programming skills. So what that means is that it's not so much of a cute toy, but it's something that's going to help them actually get a job in the workplace. And we've been developing this course over the past, I think, almost 5 years. And it was born out of some of the work that I've done for my company, a software development company, where we've taken students who are fresh graduates and taught them the skills that were missing for them to enter the workforce. And over the years, we refined it. We turned it into essentially an ebook, and finally turned it into an interactive programming course that's very effective. And we've tested this with hundreds of students across the world, primarily in the Philippines, because that's where I have my company. But we've also done a ton of piloting here in the States. And so far, it's been a very successful journey in terms of how effective it is. And we're very happy to share this with BTE.
Real good. And hopefully you heard one of the things that Sebastian mentioned is that this is not another cute programming tool. There's a lot of them out there. The code.orgs of the world and the scratches. These are great tools. This is a real world programming solution for students. So it's just not, glossy and fancy and animated. It's real world, but it teaches what students are going to really face when they go out there and get into a coding position. So that's what we're excited about the most. Can we talk about Sebastian's past here? Is this the good spot to do that, Laurelyn?
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
did want to get into this because I think a lot of young people or even educators that want to know about some of their more talented students, how they get into technical careers. What was your pathway? When did you first think about your ability at, you're probably good with math or something or science, something you knew you were really good at that led you into programming, that led you into, learning advanced programming probably in college or whatever, and then starting a company. What was that pathway like?
Yeah, so I started programming when I was, 11 or 12 years old. My mother painted a room, and well, I think a few rooms, but her payment was an old computer, and through that computer, I was able to just explore, spend time with it. AOL, the Internet CompuServe came around. I think this is around the mid 90s, and I was enthralled by the idea of like, I could create a web page, and I just kind of followed that path. By age 16 and 17, I had developed the Cal Baptist University student portal and staff portal, which they were using for scheduling, events, communications, things like that. It's probably one of the earlier portals that
How
we've
old were
seen.
you?
I think I just turned 17.
Oh, wow.
And I was working with a company at that time, part-time after school. And by the time I was 18, I had gotten to my first real job, which was data director. Uh, Back then, it was one of the first data vendors for schools to track assessment information. And I stuck with EdTech through my career, and I worked at Illuminate Education, helped them build the company from inception to becoming a multi-million, sorry, I think short of $1 billion acquisition. And I continue to work on technology. I have my own company in the Philippines doing software development, and pretty much everything that I do is related to software, especially within the ed tech space. Just because I discovered how valuable it is, personally, where I didn't really have many options coming out of high school. College was one that we couldn't afford. I didn't have any scholarships, and technology was critical for me building a career and being able to support my family. So I want to keep giving back and helping students if I can understand technology and understand how valuable that can be as a long-term career and the fruits of that, and not just the career benefits, but being adept at technology and how that's going to support your role no matter what job you have or what career choices you make.
Yeah, it's true. Technology is no longer optional to be in any really type of successful industry or field. You need to understand some part of how technology, works. Um, and I guess that really segues us. Laurel, I kind of want you to get into the beyond technology guiding principles, and I know that's going to lead us into the discussion of Codestop and how that fits into what we're doing. But let's kind of cover that. And why is this important? Why should a company be presenting this information to people?
Yeah, we're an ed tech company and we want to educate students in technology. And so we've got some principles that we use to guide us. We're different from many of the ed tech companies out there. We really want to focus on computational thinking, digital literacy, computer competency, curious innovation. We don't want to just tell kids point here, point there, click, click, click. We want them to be curious. And I talk about it as an I wonder. So when our teachers are working with the students, they're not just saying, I want you to click in the left-hand corner. You're saying, I wonder, where would I click if I was to do such and such? And really drawing out that curiosity with the students. Digital citizenship, we see the need for this, for people to know how to be kind and how to give back. Being a digital citizen is about giving back and engaging in your world in ways that are lovely, that are kind, that are thoughtful. Social emotional development, that's got a lot of buzz lately, and that just goes right back to our digital citizenship. We are wanting to guide students into being fantastic humans, and you have to grow in this area. We all know toddlers don't like to share. And so teaching our students how to work together on the computer is a significant part in it. And how to have grit and healthy habits and be responsible are all part of that development. And it works beautifully as they're learning technology at the same time. Collaborating. every job today, for the most part, has some element of collaboration in it. And so one of our guiding principles is to be able to teach all of our students, starting at a young age, our students can start collaborating really in second and third grade with some of the tools that we have out there, where they're learning to listen, actively listen to their peers and get feedback and share ideas and work together. And it's goes back to that computational thinking and curious innovation. We're asking students to, I wonder how we could help somebody get from here to there. And the kids are working together in teams and doing that. And then creative design is such a huge part of our world today and the need that we have. And, we're seeing this all over the place with all the social medias and the importance of creativity. I think at some point every company is going to have its own videographer, just like every company now has a computer. We're going to need these skills for each company that's out there. And so this is what really guides us when we're thinking about curriculum, when we're thinking about what's next. We're going to write the curriculum through these lens, and this is our guiding principle on how we write our curriculum.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it really helps not only our existing customers, but our potential customers understand what they get when it says Beyond Technology. When you see that brand, everything's going to go through this filter. This is who we are. This is what we stand for as a company, and not just from an administrative standpoint, but all of our people are very aware of this. When we go through trainings, it's just discussed at every level of the organization. So whatever we put through our group, it's going to come out the other end with this attached. And so our latest venture, obviously, is what we're talking about today, is programming curriculum and the partnership with Codestop. Now, the pure Codestop tools are professional level tools. But what we've done is we've created a classroom version of that. How can a teacher use those tools and educate and teach and train students on these pretty advanced subjects? Who's going to cover this slide?
You got to hit the slide.
Boom.
There you go. Well, with partnerships, this is how we're always changing. Technology is always changing. And we as BTE want to change with them. Back in the day, 20 plus years ago, we were teaching digital literacy on programs that no longer are with us today. They've been expired and they're not in circulation. And so we've had to continue to grow. And that's the world that we're in. We're continually needing to be agile. We're continuing needing to be flexible and to learn how to pivot on a dime. And so that's really what we're doing. And so we have partnered with experts, we have writers, we have instructors, and then our partnerships such as Codeshop, which I'm super excited, Codestop, super excited to share with you guys today who Codestop is and why this partnership is vital to BTE and our next steps.
Yeah, Codestop is they're one of our cornerstone partners, along with Canva, along with Formation Tech and Curriculum Track is the other one. And so let's get into why this partnership is happening. And I guess at this point, Sebastian and Laura Lynn, let's just talk about why this partnership came together, what we've been doing to date, and what we're planning on this to provide to educators. Who wants to go first?
Well, Sebastian, will you just unpack for us why Codestop? What's the value in this for our students? Where did you see the need to solve a problem? And you're muted.
You're muted.
Absolutely. And that's kind of a two-part question. And I'd like to start just briefly talk about what is Codestop.
Yep.
And it is an online platform where students interactively learn vocational programming skills. And let me contrast that to some other courses that may be available for students today. And again, focusing on the vocational aspect of this, where you're learning professional skills that are applicable in the real world. And some of the things that make Codestop different is that there's no video content. There's minimal content and instruction delivery. As soon as you log into Codestop, you're writing code within the first couple of minutes, and step by step, incrementally learning more advanced skills. So with zero programming experience, and we've targeted this at students 12 years old and up, because we've tested this with younger students. We found that 12 years old is that sweet spot where they can start learning these skills. You go a little bit younger, yeah, there are some exceptional students that can, but there is complexity required in this product, and there is grit. And we removed basically the lecture aspect of this program, so it's immediately interactive, as I said, and very effective at teaching debugging skills, code reading skills, and more importantly, just writing code, where there's no drag and drop. There's no assistance in writing the code beyond what the course offers you through informing you how to do it. And we found that it's very effective because it's to an extent there's a repetition of the skills, so it's ingrained in your head, and it does a very good job of teaching those critical thinking skills. And there's some new technology that we've created around this product where students can write complex pieces of code and it gets automatically verified for correctness. So if you're thinking about a teacher and the time it saves them to do this, they're saving hours per day, not grading student work, because the platform is doing it for them.
So real quick, if I listen to what you're saying, because it goes like within minutes they're coding. It's like when you're teaching someone to swim, you just push them in the pool. They're going to figure it out, right? It's like sink or swim. So it's kind of the same model you're using here. It's like get your hands dirty. Let's start it out. Let's fail fast and figure out the problems.
Yes, absolutely. And just like real world programming, you're going to make mistakes. You're not always going to know the answer. And the course helps you discover those answers through trial and error, repetition, and being careful about when we introduce concepts. And the content was created by college instructors who are also programmers. They were the teaching programming universities. I played a huge part in developing the content, the way it was delivered, as 20 years of experience within the industry. And it's been tested by quality assurance engineers. It's been tested by hundreds of students, adults, and we've made sure that it's a strong contender for teaching programming to everyone. And
Nice.
sorry, what was the original question was?
Just why? Why did you create Codestop? What was the purpose?
So why did I create Codestop? It was kind of the natural evolution of content that I have created for my software development business, where I've taken people who are fresh out of college who, they had some basic skills, but didn't have real world skills that I needed so that I could start using them. So we created ebooks and content that was not interactive. It was very much like a textbook. And I saw that it was very effective and we could do better. What's the next step? How could we actually get this in the hands of students? So through repetition, through the training of probably a few hundred developers that I've worked with over the past 15 years, how do we take this to the next level? And an interactive course that teaches it this way has shown to be the most effective way that I've seen across the industry, again, including other e-learning tools, video lectures, things like Course Academy and Coursera and other platforms. It's much more effective than what they offer, because we have this automated way of interacting with the students, verifying if their work is correct, and teaching these skills effectively.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was LinkedIn purchased, was it lynda.com, one of the big e-learning platforms, and the world was like, wow, it was $1 billion acquisition. And so e-learning platforms really, I mean, it's like a gold rush. There's a lot of people trying to do it, especially in this space. When we talk about young people, you mentioned 12 years old and up, middle school, high school students, they're building their knowledge base for their careers. We all know this is going to be a huge area. How do we do it? And a lot of the solutions out there are real colorful, animated, cutesy. We always talk about this. How have you felt like this approach, this push them in the pool, sink or swim? How do you think, is this how you learned? Is this why this is going to be effective?
Yeah, so let's rewind to when I started programming, at 12 years old. Back then, the internet is not what it is today. The
Yeah.
information available on it was, slim at best, and programming resources were minimal, if any. You basically had some code documentation that was written by someone who's super smart in technology, who's creating a programming language. And you would spend time in the documentation. You'd look at the source code. You would go through trial and error again and again and again until you finally got it. Now with technology improving so much in the past 25 30 years, it's a different ball game. And I found that basically enforcing that process of, okay, trial and error, discovery, troubleshooting, by repeating this in an interactive course, are
You locked
necessary on the
you.
job.
You
And
had kind of a little
it's been
dip in
incredibly
your
effective.
feed there, Sebastian.
Oh,
You're
am I
back on. You're good
seeing?
now. You're good now.
Okay. Where'd you lose me?
I don't
Oh,
remember what you were saying.
damn it.
I
Okay. Uh,
I went
I
into
guess I'll start
troubleshooting
from the
mode.
beginning. Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
back then when the internet wasn't what it is today, you had to discover programming through trial and error, resources, documentation, source code reading, and essentially trying things over and over again with small adjustments until you got it right. And that was incredibly effective at creating programmers 25 years ago because you had to work so hard just to make a little bit of headway in programming. So those
Yeah.
similar concepts have been adopted into Codestop, where it's a lot easier than that, but still enforces the
Mhm.
grit and discovery and trial and error that's required on the job. And those are probably the most important characteristics of programmers that we look for today.
It's funny you say that because my son's very technical, creative builder. He's all about Legos and he's all into Minecraft. He's huge into Minecraft, and he does some stuff in there that I mean, if you talk to, the experts, he shouldn't be able to do this stuff, but he does. He figures it out. And usually it's from watching a video on YouTube and then he goes and does it. And there's times he asks me for help. But it blows my mind when the kids have that grit, they have the desire to figure it out, that hunger to go forward. That's such an important aspect of solving a problem. And so these tools, these programming languages, and having Codestop like solutions start building that ability because that is, if you could build up that grip muscle, that's powerful for the future. So let's get into why. Why are we teaching coding? We understand the why of Codestop. We understand what that's all about. Laura Lynn, why don't you overlap that with the big world, real world solutions?
Mhm.
What are we doing this for?
In teaching digital literacy, we're talking constantly about the four C's, the four C's of
Mhm.
teaching our students. And this is in all classes, in all areas. We want to teach them how to communicate with one another, communicate written word as well as verbally, as well as online. That we want them to collaborate together. And this is in every aspect of their lives, right? Learning how to problem solve, learning how to
Mhm.
be active listeners, learning how to give and receive feedback. But we're seeing that as such a need in the world. And Sebastian kind of touched on it before that here he was hiring these coders looking for people, but they've got to be able to have some social skills and know how to collaborate and work on a team, being creative. And then one that I think is really powerful is that creative, critical thinking that they have, problem solving. Doing puzzles with our children is so important. And teaching coding actually brings in all four of these that are
Mhm.
needed in every subject that we teach as educators. And so I love coding because I see the need. I have had areas in my life that had nothing to do with my job where I was actually needed some basic HTML markup skills that I had to learn on the fly because I had never been taught it, and it was puzzles, and it was, and then learning the if then statements and some of the basic things within coding that really do help students in other areas. I grew up as a musician. I had to learn how to play the piano, learn how to play the guitar, and at the time, everyone was saying this really helps your brain grow, which it does. Coding also does that. And I actually
Mhm.
found that some of the theory in my music transferred over into coding. So it was really interesting and being
Mhm.
able to see it through. And then in other areas of my life that I've had, I see the need, and I see the need now for real life experience, like Sebastian was talking about. It's real life experience that we need more than ever. And all of the governors in the United States have gotten together and said, we need to teach computer science. We need digital literacy. We need coding. We need to be able to teach these technology skills that the kids need. The hard
Mhm.
part is finding the white space in a school schedule to teach it. But we know it's important.
Mhm.
And profoundly for these 4 areas: communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. These are essential skills for our students to all have.
I'm glad you brought up the governor's, what's called the governor's National
Initiative, I
Governors
think.
Initiative, where all the governors in the country have all come together on this initiative
Mhm.
to promote computer science in high school and middle school. And it comes at a great time because there is a need to promote this, to get this out there. We've been talking about STEAM forever. Let's look at just the programming part because that is a major piece. And so if you think about, you mentioned music, and I love that analogy. I remember learning music in school. You pitch, beat, rhythm. You learn about all these things, all the different instruments, but I'm not a musician, but at least I have the guitar sitting there, but I don't know how to play it. um, I know Sebastian has guitars in his office. He probably plays a little bit more, but you learn these basic things that now they're part of you can have a conversation about them. So this is what I also think about technology. You introduce students to data science and presentation graphics and
Mhm.
programming and coding, and eventually they're going to see that these are tools that if they don't become experts in these fields, at least they understand how to have a conversation about them and how they fit into their life. It's one of those just memory things they have. So
Mhm.
that's why it's so critical. One of the things I'm going to ask this question for Sebastian real quick, something that we hear all the time, and it comes up. So we're going to ask the expert. There's programming, there's coding. What, how are they different, or are they not different? How do we have this conversation with educators about differentiating them or showing them how they're basically the same thing?
Great question. And the short answer is the terms are used interchangeably these days. They aren't necessarily the same thing and how they work and what they mean at a kind of a nitty-gritty level. But for all intents and purposes, when someone talks about coding versus programming, it's kind of the same thing. If you want to go down to that nitty-gritty, coding is typically you're writing some kind of encoded like machine language directly from the computer, which isn't
Hmm.
really practical and not something that very many people can do, or maybe nobody can do without the assistance of a programming tool, programming language. So they're kind of used interchangeably, but depending on the application and the context, they may mean something a little bit different.
So is it like writing as a function of language? Is that kind of a good analogy? Coding is a function of programming?
Yeah, that kind of works.
Okay. Okay, now I understand. That fully clarifies it. Let's see what other questions we have in here. Okay, Sebastian, you mentioned that you developed this originally just to help, you find skilled workers. What is the demand really out there right now for programmers? Who's looking for them? How are they finding them? And how can programmers find potential employers?
Great question. The demand for programmers today is huge. The
Hmm.
demand for highly skilled programmers is even bigger. And to put that into context, if you're a skilled engineer with some maybe 5 to 10 years of experience, you could fairly easily get a job that's paying 200,000 per year. That's how much demand there is for skilled programmers. And
Right out of college, right out of programming school?
I believe there are programmers who go straight to Google
Hmm.
if they're like data science backgrounds or something with like a guaranteed minimum salary of, 160,000 and up.
Oh.
Which when I entered the industry in 2002, entry level programming jobs were $45,000 per year.
Hmm.
So you can see how the demand has changed and also the salaries have changed over the past 20 or so years. And it's there's a ton of demand for it. Even having basic skills, you can still make a career out of this and earn a living with basic skills and continue to develop those throughout your career.
And how are these employers finding the programmers and vice versa? What's the marketplace?
Marketplace, there is a lot of direct recruiting. So based on
Hmm.
your experience, people on LinkedIn will reach out directly to you, recruiters, and even the companies themselves. Try to set up interviews that way.
Yeah.
Traditional mediums where we're used to going through job advertisements, sending your resume, it's still a huge portion of um, hiring that occurs, and as well as through recruiter hiring. And we're starting to see an uptick in hiring coming directly from coding schools, similar to Codestop, where they partner with companies saying that, we approve of your program and we'd like to hire your programmers directly who
Okay.
have completed your course.
Yeah, I see that as a growing trend. More direct instruction. I need this, teach them just this so I have it quicker, teach better,
Yeah,
faster.
it kind of shifts the hiring techniques a little bit, because what's happening is that if your technology, your company requires these 6 specific technologies, and a platform like Codestop has taught specifically those 6 technologies, you've got the perfect hire. They've proven themselves, they've certified, they've completed the course, excuse me, and they have the exact skills that you need to hire.
Right.
It reduces the gap between worker and company skill requirement, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And Laura Lynn, I have a question for you because I know that you're real big on computational thinking, um, you know, data science. Why is there so much of a buzz around this, and how does it apply to this programming curriculum that we're discussing?
Well, data is king, right? We need data for everything. And if you are in the marketplace right now, or even as educators, if we're speaking to educators right now, you're getting asked about the grades, right? We need data for the grades, and how well as a teacher are you doing, and how are your kids scoring? Data is everything. And so to be able to teach how to interpret data is really important. In fact, there's one of the languages, Sebastian, you have to help me about this. Is SQL, SQL, which is
SQL, SQL.
SQL,
SQL,
yeah, SQL.
that I think will be important, for students to know as well. And these are some of the languages that we'll be getting to, but these are real life skills, because this is what our world is engaging in today. And you really can't go anywhere. Even if you don't have the college path to where you're looking at the data of your grades, you're looking at the data of life, and how to interpret that data is significant. And, we don't just go through life one foot in front of the other. We do. That's part of having our grit. That's part of staying determined and having our habits. But with that, we're going to have to be able to understand and look at, interpret what's happening as we put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay. I do want to move forward to our next slide. And really, we're a K-12 organization. We work with the littles, as Laura Lynn likes to call them, and we work with the middle school students and high school students. But let's talk about with our younger students. And again, we're probably going to go down to what, 5th or 6th grade with some of this stuff.
Mhm.
How is this going to help, Laura Lynn? How do you think? Why do students at that young of an age need to start doing this, or should it be younger?
Well, I actually think in kindergarten, first grade, we need to be doing, and even preschool starting with unplugged activities, algorithms, how to move forward, backwards, right? What's your left hand and your right hand? This is important for us to understanding and turning, getting from point A to point B. These are skills that need to be taught in the littles, the younger grades, and as they move on up, the block coding skills that we have, as well as digital literacy, all the digital literacy tools teaches them how to do that computational thinking. And this lays a foundation. So these students are actually getting success, right? Little bits of success at a time. So by the time that they're in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and they start off with something like HTML, it's going to be smooth sailing, because they've already learned a lot of the, if I do this, then what happens? And so then when they see it on the screen having to do an if then statement,
Right.
they're gonna be like, oh, I've already got this foundation for me. So teaching it to the littles lays this foundation, whether you're teaching block coding or teaching data science or teaching how to use a word processor, learning how to type. Those are foundational skills. And what we're seeing is we're not having a lot of success. Not many students, as many as we need to hit the jobs that Sebastian was talking about, are signing up for computer science courses. And that's a big issue that we have. So if we want to have success in high school computer science courses, we've got to start with this foundation of the littles. You don't take an elementary student and just instantly say, okay, we're going to do geometry or calculus, right? You're teaching them some basic geometric calculations young. So when they get to that middle school, high school class, they're ready for it. They've already laid a foundation for it. So just like in math, just like in reading, where we're learning how to blend letters to be able to get to the major words later on, it's the same thing with computer science. We've got to be laying that foundation. And that's a huge miss that I think
Yeah.
is happening right now in schools. We're just seeing, okay, just jump right in. If you've had an Algebra 1 class, then you are ready. That's your prerequisite for computer science. Well, we're not getting a lot of kids to sign up for those classes, let alone complete and pass the AP exams, because they haven't had that foundation to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So if I'm hearing you, there is a place for these cutesy code, these little code.org tools,
Yeah.
and it's in the younger grades. Get them the fundamentals, the foundation, with the training wheels version of programming. And then middle school, high school is when we're ready to take the training wheels off and put them into real world stuff, which that's what Codestop is. And that's what I'm hearing there is a strong demand for. There's a lot of not just from teachers and students, but from parents also. Get our kids ready. They're ready for it. And I've seen this more often than not, is that especially when it comes to technology, which is what I've been doing for 30 years, when it comes to ed tech, we don't challenge our students enough. And usually, and not I'm not pointing fingers, but usually the teachers just aren't prepared to teach them anything more technical because they just don't have that capacity. So that's where having resources like the Codestop curriculum and the support that comes with it will help a school provide a higher level of programming, coding, uh, courses, because now they have the resources with the support. If the teacher could read and present, they should be able to deliver this course. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. And which is why I love our progression of going from there into HTML, because I think
Yeah.
HTML is the perfect language to start with.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the courses. Let's get to the point. What is the courses? Um, so you can see that there's, I'll let you go through the slide, Laura Lynn, but there's basically 4 courses that are on track, and then we'll talk about the future. But go ahead and start with this slide, Laura Lynn.
Yeah, so we start off with, in 6th grade, the HTML language. These students are doing actual journals. So one of the beauties of our partnership is we've taken Codestop's online course that they have, and we've combined it with a teacher-led, teacher-friendly curriculum. And that's important because, like Ernie was saying, so many teachers aren't equipped. They've never coded before. And so we've been able to create a curriculum that any teacher can do. And it's actually really exciting. So the teachers have a step-by-step that helps them out. Plus there's 24-hour support that we have for the most part. We do sleep sometimes, but for the most part, we have support given to the teachers. And so the students not only are learning the language, but they're doing actual coding journals, which we get into. This is all about how we problem solve, how we figure things out. And we do that through our journaling. Essential vocabulary, because there's key words in computer science that the kids need, as well as in the HTML course. And then combined with character. We don't want you to just learn a language. The language is important, but the key with our curriculum is combining it with these character elements so that you are learning digital citizenship all along,
That
and how
BT
to work as a
filter.
team.
Yeah, the BT filter we talked about. Everything
The
goes to that
BT,
filter, so that
yep,
on the other end, it's more than just, technology.
yeah,
It's character development. Yep.
yep. And then I'm going to skip over to, at the end of every unit, there's an exam that these kids have that they're actually producing. We call it the playground, that they're producing real products at the end of it. And so a couple of the other languages besides HTML, we start with that. Then we move into PHP, and Python right now is in development. We're very excited about this. And each year we're going to continue to add new courses. There's a lot of languages out there. And when the students, Sebastian, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the students start learning these basic languages, these foundations, then they're able to pick up other languages quicker.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And not just that, but as we learn more and more skills, we can start combining them and create even greater technology. For a web developer, typically you'll engage with HTML, JavaScript, CSS, SQL programming, and even some server administration. So we'll keep building courses and following demand to the market, and building out what's going to support our students best.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think here's an important aspect to point out here, because we've developed this curriculum different than any of our other curriculums. We did not go out and tell our instructional design team, go learn HTML and then create a curriculum. Go learn PHP and create. We didn't do that. We found experts that know this, that do this, that this is their livelihood, that happen to have an educational tool, although it was a real world tool. We've K-12, or I shouldn't say that, we've edified it. We've made it more digestible for middle school and high school classroom. So that's where, real world comes together with, a 30 or 20-year-old ed tech company, and now we have a curriculum that is doable in the classroom. So it brings both worlds together. So it was created by coders for coders, and now it's designed to be understood by students. So that all of that comes together really well. And let's go to the next one. And let's talk about. I think you touched on this already, but because this is our first course. Let's spend a little more time on HTML, Sebastian.
Yeah, HTML is an excellent introduction to programming because it gets you accustomed to writing code and debugging, troubleshooting, and exploring language and basically working within an environment where every detail matters. And that's the nature of programming. Every detail matters. If one detail is wrong, it could destroy your whole program. So this gets them ready for doing that and not doing drag and drop coding and block building, but actually writing code. And beyond that, it helps them start using critical thinking skills, troubleshooting, debugging. That's critical to every skill. And once they've learned that and they understand how this technology fits into the web and how it's used in nearly every website and application, that's many applications on your phone are using HTML. So this is an excellent introduction and gets tied into other topics and technologies later on in our courses.
And I think that's an element that will inspire students. What? That's how my phone works? I mean, when you start talking about their mobile phone, you're going to get their attention rapidly. So that's good stuff. And then wrapping it up, I think we're almost done here. But let's, again, back to that lens, that filter that we apply. Why is it important, Laura Lynn? How, and in addition to that, how does it differentiate this curriculum from others that schools might choose, where important is included? Tell me, why is this critical?
When we talk about digital citizenship, there's actually 9 elements to digital citizenship, and I'm not going to get into all of those today, but learning how to engage and work with other people is a critical part of it, learning how to collaborate together. So we're not just having our students learn how to code, but we're actually saying learn how to code while working together, learn how to code while learning how to actively listen to one another, learn how to code. And when you have an issue and you're struggling, you're going to have grit. And with our HTML, we've actually combined grit with Angela Duckworthy. She's an author and a speaker and an educator, and the whole idea of having your guts and your resilience and taking initiative and having tenacity. Those are all the things for grit that we combine with it. And with PHP, we have combined it with the idea that you can do hard things. A book written by Steve Magnus, which is pretty phenomenal, on you can push through and how to have the habits and the little tiny steps at a time to teach you how to push through and how to take those negative thoughts of I can't do this and turning around to I can do this. And with our next one, we're actually looking at combining it with the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And to have that be a part of our curriculum as well. So in life, there's going to be difficulties, and we want our kids to be able to have the high character where they can push through these difficult times, having these healthy habits.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good. Well, I thought that was a fantastic conversation. And, talking about Sebastian and learning about his background, Codestop, the reason for Codestop, Beyond Technology, what we're all about, and how we've brought in these two entities together for something powerful. I'm sure you're going to have questions. Please reach out to us. You can visit our contact page. Just go to beyondk12.com and click on free consultation, and it'll get you to our contact page. And let us answer questions for you and see how these tools can, improve instruction at your school. Again, it's curriculum materials, it's training, it's support. And we do have an annual summer training program, so there's an opportunity for a live training as well, but most of it is virtual. And we're anxious to take your questions, so please send them our way. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to chatting with you. Bye, guys. Thanks. Good job.
Thanks for having us. This was great.
All right. Bye.
Did Ernie leave us? Like, okay, do we need to stop the camera? Do you stop? Okay, I'm going to say stop recording.